こんにちは、あつです。
Yo, what up, is it?
Hi, Andrew.
はい、ということで、今回は、So Andrew came all the way from Australia just for the sake of this video. So thank you so much. And today, I want you to share your experience of being in Japan. And I think you've come across like lots of interesting but weird maybe situations in Japan.
ちょっと待って、オーストラリア人のアンドリューと一緒にいると、ちょっとオーストラリア人の訛りがちょっと強くなった気がする。
そんな気がする？
意識してない？
してない。
すごい、さすが。
Anyway, so he's gonna share his experience around Japan and what you thought was interesting and yeah, something along those lines. ね。で、ニック
Sounds good, Mike. I'll talk about anything you want.
Well, what do you think of his Australian accent?
Fantastic. It's better than mine. So this is actually my second time in Japan. So some of the differences are actually I found more pronounced this time than the first time I was here because I was paying more attention to it this time. One of the things I still find fascinating is that the trains are actually on time here compared to, I don't know if it's a Melbourne thing or an Australia thing, but the trains are just scarily on time. They get here when they say they'll get here, and people are very organised and orderly getting on them, unlike back at home where people just kind of jump on willy-nilly. There's no order, structure, whatever, and I think the target for trains being on time back home is about 5 minutes. So if it's 5 minutes before or after, they actually call that on time. Whereas here, I think there would be a meltdown if that was to happen, and I can understand why. And that kind of leads me on to my second point, which is there's a lot of people. So if the trains were 5 minutes late, I don't think the city would actually work.
Can I add something? You know, the Shinkansen, right? You know, they get there on time. So all the people, because there's a lot of people, have to get off, and the cleaners have like exactly like it was like 1 minute and 30 seconds or like 2 minutes to clean everything perfectly and get off within that. So everything's timed.
Yeah.
And then everybody gets on. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday as well when we went to Fujisan. It's similar to the Shinkansen. They go. It's like a 2-hour train. They come back, and then the cleaners are just on. They have to turn all the seats around, clean the whole thing, and the conductor's just like 2 minutes, turn it around, and then they're out of there. So they don't have time to talk, answer questions or anything like that. It's really fascinating seeing it. Like everything's just very tightly run and controlled. So that's another big difference, I guess.
And that's pretty positive, right? That's a positive side of Japan that you've experienced. Is there anything that's a little bit off or a little bit negative?
It's really busy.
Yep.
And it gets a bit overwhelming sometimes, especially for someone like me. I don't like being around a lot of people all the time. So when you're in a place where space is a bit tight and there's just lots of people, even going up escalators or elevators, like it's just always full. There's always heaps of people, and personal space gets a bit it's taken away from you a lot. Like there's a different understanding of personal space, I find. If you're like here up against someone, people don't seem to mind that much. Whereas I think back home it's like a very big
right.
Like you don't do that unless you actually absolutely have to. And it's very rare.
It can't be helped, right? Because there isn't enough space. So
and I don't know if that's specific to Tokyo or that's just Japan in general, but
I think Tokyo is very busy. Even Osaka is not that many people, I feel. You know what I mean? Like it's like, this place feels small compared to Tokyo almost,
You've been to Osaka, right?
Yeah.
So how do you compare Osaka and Tokyo?
Osaka is busy. I think Kyoto is a lot better. That's like if I were to pick a place to live, it would be probably Kyoto. Like a lot more close to what I'm used to and like what I like.
More Melbourne-ish.
Just a lot quieter. And the pace is a lot slower. Not a lot slower, but a bit slower and just more in line with what I'm used to. But Tokyo is definitely a great place to visit. Obviously I'm only here for a week and I chose Tokyo. So,
do you ever want to live in Tokyo at all?
Not longer than a few weeks, I think. Or definitely not in the busier areas. So somewhere like Shibuya or Shinjuku, I think is
yeah,
a bit
little bit
much.
too crazy.
Yeah, Meguro, where I'm staying, isn't too bad.
It's a nice place.
Yeah, it's
very nice place.
Yeah, and it's a little bit more strange, I think. Like less touristy, less built up, but yeah, it's an interesting place. So I think somewhere like that wouldn't be too bad. Yeah.
Did you have a chance to interact with Japanese people?
Mainly, obviously because I'm here as a tourist. Service staff mainly. And they're, the vast majority of them are really polite and helpful, which is great. The language barrier is a little bit of an issue, but they make up for it by being very polite, and they try their best to help you. Which is quite a nice change from back home, where people I think mainly intend, like, they have nice intentions and they mean well, but the service levels are a bit up and down.
I've heard from several foreigners that, like, Japanese people are very polite, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're nice.
Oh, yeah.
So
maybe on the surface.
Yeah, so on the surface level, they'll go out of their way to help you, but it's like they still kind of want to, like, keep a distance.
Yeah. Can you feel their vibes?
It's very professional.
Yes.
Like, they know I don't speak Japanese, but they'll still, it's almost like they read a script. So they'll just say what they need to say, and it just sounds like this is what you say when you serve someone. It's just reading from a script, and they know what to say, they need to say it, and that's kind of it. So there's no real, like, interaction or...
Right. But it doesn't sound like it's coming from their heart.
I mean, I can't really judge that because I don't speak the language, but it's just an interesting observation because it just feels like they're kind of reading from a script, and it's very rehearsed. I don't know if they fully mean it or, like, their heart's in it, but that's an interesting observation that I had this time around.
What do you think of the English in general? Of course, it varies, but
varies by area, and I think sometimes it's a confidence thing. I think some people, once you actually start talking to them, their English is actually a lot better than they think it is. But I think one of the things I've noticed is when people don't feel that confident, and I don't think this is unique to Japanese people either. I think just when you're not that confident in the language, you tend not to want to speak it because you're afraid of making mistakes or offending the other person or whatever it is. You shy away from it a little bit. That's something I observed.
And one thing I'm curious is, so you don't, like, really look Western, right? Because you're Asian. Yeah. Do people talk to you in Japanese first or in English? Or in Japanese first? How about you? Like, do you...
I mean, I look totally Japanese, so people are always like... いや、俺、英語の時も多いし、ちょうどこの前、I talked about this with Alex. Like, are foreigners annoyed when Japanese... Because some foreigners really don't like it when Japanese people speak English to them. Like, if it's like a French guy or like an Italian guy, they're like, how do you know I speak English? But I don't mind it at all. I like them to say straight away, like, oh, I want to practice my English or something.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they'll talk to you like they talk to me in English, and I'll speak back in, like, better Japanese than their English. でも、しつこく, they still speak to me in English, but it's really bad. And I'm like, come on, if you just speak with me in Japanese, we can get this conversation done, like, a lot faster. But
would you say that Nick has a native, like, does he sound like a native Japanese speaker?
No, I have, like, a foreign.
Pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah.
I mean, a lot better than many people speak English. So if they're like, can I practice English with you? Then I'm like, oh yeah, sure. That's a different, like, story.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like I'm having a chat with a foreigner when I'm talking with him. Like, I can clearly tell that he's got, like, so much experience in Japan.
Yeah. But people still insist on speaking.
Yeah, I mean, some people speak Japanese. Yeah. It was really funny. I actually got told by a foreigner the other day when I spoke Japanese that it's like, she was offended that I spoke fluent Japanese because it's like me taking, like, Japanese culture, like appropriating Japanese culture. Like, I just think I could come here and, like, do whatever I want. And I was like, well, what do you want me to do? Like, tell all the Japanese people to speak English? You know, that's the only other option.
Would you say that's unusual though?
I'd say, well, it wasn't a Japanese person. It was an American person.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's an American getting offended on behalf of
Japanese people. Even though the only other option would be like, don't speak Japanese to me, speak English. You too, speak English. Like, that would be way more offensive.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, interestingly, because my girlfriend's Cambodian, she looks Cambodian. I think they know that she's not from here, whereas I think me at first glance, I kind of like the assumption is that I'm Japanese. So like it takes me an extra step to explain that. Sorry, don't speak Japanese. English.
You could look Japanese.
What about me?
What do you think? Yeah, totally.
よかった。
Easily. That's what I first thought when I saw you. Japanese for sure.
Yeah.
そんな感じ?
I think once you say it, I'm like, okay, it makes sense. You don't look Japanese. Like, you know what I mean?
Once he says
that. Once he says it. Like, I'm pretty, like, but I've heard many, non-Japanese Asians have a problem coming here because...
Yeah, it's because people aren't necessarily paying attention all the time or looking for differences, right? So they just see an Asian person and they're like, oh, must be Japanese. Like, it's just kind of subconscious assumption.
You should say in really bad Japanese, そうです。私は日本人です and see like how confused
it's funny actually. So, someone told me the other day I said a very good konnichiwa for someone not Japanese. He thought I was Japanese. He's like, are you sure?
Really?
Well, yeah, I'm sure I'm not Japanese.
That's funny. You got a perfect, just the konnichiwa is perfect.
Konnichiwa.
はい、ということで今回はアンジュルーに日本でのいろいろ経験とかね、オーストラリアとの比較とかを話してもらいました。So thank you so much for coming to our channel today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
で、アンジュルはね、Distinction の作成にも携わっているので、もしかしたら見たことがあるかもしれないんですけれども、でまたね、日本に来た時とか動画撮れればと思います。ということで、また次の動画で皆さんお会いしましょう。バイバイ。